This is a 1992 Land Rover Discovery, but it's not just another Discovery. It's not just another old Land Rover. If you're a fan of Land Rovers, you might look at this and say it looks like someone tried to make a Camel Trophy replica, but you'd be wrong. This is an actual Camel Trophy truck. It was used in the 1992 event, which was held in Guyana down in South America. More importantly, it was driven by the United States team in a year when they won the Team Spirit Award, one of only 2 times the United States has ever won an award in the Camel Trophy. More importantly, this vehicle is currently for sale on Cars and Bids, Doug DeMuro's auto enthusiast auction website. And in true Doug DeMuro spirit, I'm going to take you around this vehicle, this rolling piece of history with all of its dents and dings and scratches and faded paint and other battle scars it earned during the Camel Trophy and subsequent training events. Of course, it has lots of quirks and features we can go over, and I'll take it out for a brief spin and give you my impressions of how it drives and the sense of occasion it provides. Since Doug isn't here to give us a Doug score, I'll kind of give you my take on the true relevance of this car, its history, and why I think it really deserves someone to be its next caretaker. Often referred to as the Olympics of 4x4 and running for 2 decades, the Camel Trophy was an international off-road competition and expedition. Mostly stock, factory-prepared vehicles were driven in convoys through truly exotic locations around the globe. It was actually an incredible test of man and machine under the most extreme conditions imaginable. Teams drove at least 1,000 miles over the most rugged terrain, often with little time for sleep. Participants were expected to help each other make progress and survive, while competition took the form of special tasks in navigation, recovery, driving, and construction. A Team Spirit Award was judged by the competitors themselves and proved as prestigious as winning the Camel Trophy itself. The event began in 1980 in the Brazilian Amazon with 3 German teams driving Jeeps, none of which finished the event. Over the years, Camel Trophy became an international sensation, with countries from all over the world fielding teams. Millions of hopeful entrants applied for the chance to take part, with only the lucky few chosen each year. Selections occurred after a rigorous application process and qualifying regional competitions. Over the next 18 years, Land Rover Special Vehicles Department would provide all of the race and support vehicles to be used across Central and South America, Australia, Madagascar, and even Siberia. Range Rovers, series trucks, Defenders, and Freelanders all competed, but Discoveries were used in 8 consecutive years. Camel Trophy became indelibly linked with Land Rover, a partnership which proved how incredibly tough their vehicles were in extreme conditions, while certainly increasing sales in the showrooms. No Camel Trophy races were ever staged in the United States, and none of the participating vehicles was legal here for import or use during that era. Many of the trophy vehicles were extremely damaged, left in the country where the race was finished, or returned to teams' respective home countries for training and qualification purposes. All Camel Trophy vehicles were prepared by Land Rover Operations Division, and each one was painted in the distinctive and now iconic sand glow yellow. The Discovery demonstrated an uncanny ability to traverse jungle, muddy, rocky, and even snowy courses. All were diesel-powered with manual transmissions, and each was built on the regular production line in England, broken in by the Vehicle Operations Department, and finally moved to the Special Installations Department for final conversion into Camel Trophy competition vehicles. 16 teams participated in the 1992 Camel Trophy, which ran 1,600 kilometers from Manaus, Brazil, to Georgetown, Guyana. In place of the thick mud encountered in previous events, drivers were faced with extreme red dust, giant tree roots, and countless river crossings. Team USA members were Jim West and Dan Amon. This is a great photo showing them both prior to the start of the event and at the awards ceremony at the end. And the car you see here today is the very same one which they drove. Well, starting off with the exterior, this, like all other Camel Trophy vehicles, was painted in sand glow yellow, and they only ever used it on the Camel Trophy trucks. This one retains all original paint. It's got scratches, as you see here, most likely from brush scraping through during the event, dents and dings. The decals are faded and a little worn, peeling there, but they're all the original decals. Every single one that's on here is original. All the body panels are original, nothing's been touched. All the glass is original, nothing's been broken. Everything on this truck is original. If you look up here, these are the aluminum sand ladders. There were originally 4, 2 on each side. This vehicle retains 2 of the original sand ladders. Up here is one of the recovery tools, a shovel. It's got a lock on it. We have the key for that. The Camel Trophy decal here, this was only used in 1992. They returned to the original scheme, which was the black on white. If you look at other years, the early years, this is what they used. Later years and other years around, they had different ones, but this was only used then. All of these decals, again, are original. On the front fender, notice the large dent there. The original United States flag is there, and where the Michelin sticker is, that is where the original team members' names were, which were Jim West and Dan Amon. Those were removed during training, and they replaced it with a Michelin sticker. Also during the event, you'll see that there was a Shell decal up here that's no longer there. The last official photo of this vehicle was in 1995 when they were using it for training in Colorado for future events. And during that time, the vehicle was completely submerged underwater in a river. They had to use a diver to find it and pull it out. They drained the water out the next day, they started it, and it fired right up. It's a good point to discuss the wheels and tires. These are original. They are steel 16-inch wheels. The tires are Michelin XCLs. These are the original wheels and tires that were used on the vehicle during the event. They've been on it the entire time. The tires are incredibly checked. They're cracked, probably dry rotted, but they do hold air. They're tube tires. BFG makes some mud tires that will fit, but they just don't have the same look. Moving on to the driver's side, you can see that it's very similar to the passenger side. The decals are all basically the same, perhaps a little less worn on this side, but you'll see more scratches and dents and dings. The lower part of the quarter panel here has a good amount of pitting and wear there. Again, aluminum sand ladder on this side. Instead of the shovel on this side, we have the pickaxe with the head here bolted down, and the handle here, which has 2 of these straps. Lastly, there is the intake snorkel made by a company called Mantech, which allowed the vehicle to operate with the water up to the top, which did happen in certain cases, I guess. And then also breather tubes for the transfer case and axles here that assisted in that as well. On the back of the vehicle, some of the distinctive features here: the safety devices roof rack is bolted through the body in 2 places, unique to Camel Trophy installations. It has the roof ladder, the Hella rear spotlight, the original American flag decal, and the felling axe is secured with, again, the cam buckle straps, and it does have the chain and lock here for securing. We've got the rear lamp guards, the towing or winching posts there, which would have been used with straps or cables from other Camel Trophy vehicles to pull this out from mud or water. The spare tire and wheel are later versions. They were probably added during training. The original spare tire and wheel rim are located in the cargo area. That does not open from the outside, and that's something I'll detail when we take a look at the inside. Finally, this vehicle retains its original British number plate, the J428ROP, and it's very important. All of the Camel Trophy vehicles that were made that year start with the same prefix. So that's a key piece of identification for this one. Taking a look at the front, the hood is rather distinctive. The original hood release mechanism was replaced at the factory with these rally-style manual release pins that allowed the hood to be open without the need to get inside the vehicle. The center section of the hood was painted a matte black as an anti-reflective measure to keep sun out of the driver and co-driver's eyes. The original Land Rover white and green decal is there, it's faded. The American flag decal is original also. It's coming up a little bit here, you can see it flaking. At the top of the roof rack, you'll see the 4 Hella lights. Those are controlled with from a panel on the inside, and in the center is a Camel Trophy plaque That is a replacement. I was told by the original owner that the event participants had taken the others as souvenirs. So I ordered one from Sprint Signs, the company in England who originally manufactured them. It's made out of embossed aluminum. It's rather thick. It's made to the exact specifications as the original. I weathered it as best I could a little to try and match the patina so it didn't look as new. The rear plaque is smaller, and they also sell it if someone wanted to put it on there to give it that flavor of more authenticity. These limb risers or brush guards have center section that's adjustable. There's a great video on YouTube of one of the events where one of these failed to stop a tree branch from coming through the windshield and going into the passenger side. Thankfully, no one was sitting in there when that happened. That vehicle did complete the trophy. Moving on to the front is the Brown Church front bumper. This is distinct again to the Camel trophy. These end sections were only used on it. It holds driving lights, Hella driving lights, the 2 tow points down there, and a Warren XD 9000 winch, which is original to the vehicle. Most distinct and identifying on this bumper is these 2 metal pieces here, these round metal pieces. These were welded on, and they were used to hold the flag, the national flag, during the convoy. These are only on the team vehicles, the competitor vehicles. So in 1992, that was only the 16 Discoveries that had these. Under the hood, you'll find the original 200 TDI 4-cylinder engine. That stands for turbo diesel injection. It's a 2.5 liter or 152 cubic inch 4-cylinder, featuring a whopping 111 brake horsepower and 195 foot-pounds of torque. It runs like a champ. It starts instantly. One thing I've really had, changed the oil and filter within the last 6 months, and last month put in 2 new die-hard batteries. You'll see they're wired in series, and there is a special battery box over there. And that is really the only modifications that were made under the hood by Land Rover for these events. They wanted to show that these could handle any kind of conditions in their pretty much stock configuration. You'll see up at this retains some of the original marks from the factory, both above and underneath. None of that has been touched. One thing to note is the factory data plate has been removed. That was done by Land Rover North America, I believe, when they sold them to the private parties in an attempt to make sure that they weren't registered or titled for road use because they didn't have EPA or DOT approval. Obviously, this was never a configuration that was sold in the United States. The original VIN is stamped on the frame on the passenger side, right underneath the fender over here. All right, so we're going to give it a quick start. So that is a cold idle. And this is a little acceleration. And finally shut down. All right, so moving to the undercarriage of the vehicle. Here you can see the fairly skinny tires, the cracks that are in them, a lot of tread still, but I definitely wouldn't rely on them for much other than short drives. Here you can see the guard for the fuel tank. It's made out of an industrial aluminum. There's insulation under there. You can see the rear suspension here, and on the back these were one modification where they had larger springs with helper springs within, and also Monroe shock absorbers, which you can see the yellow there. All right, so moving up to the underside of the front, looking from the passenger side, you can get a look at the suspension there and the undercarriage. We're in the back of the Camel Trophy Discovery. It's a cloth upholstery interior, as you can see. It's actually in very good condition, no rips or tears or any real stains, especially considering the abuse it's probably seen. The floor is covered in custom fitted rubber mats. These are the originals. All the part numbers are on the bottom. The carpet's in actually remarkable condition. No stains or any other issues there. You can see that it has a padded roll cage here. This was a safety devices item manufactured by them and installed by Land Rover. The floor mats are cut to fit around that. There's a dog cage or dog guard back here is what we would call it, but it was really to keep the cargo from shifting forward during all of their maneuvers in the event. There's even an ashtray here, which is kind of fitting considering the sponsor of the event. Probably the most distinctive feature of the, or quirk if you want to call it that, of the Camel Trophy discoveries is that they retained power windows for the rear seats and roll-up manual wind windows for the front. And that was to enable escape in case the vehicle was overturned or in water and driver and passenger needed to get out. The only people who really sat in the back seat were journalists that came along for portions of the Camel Trophy, and the drivers of the teams were expected to cart them around if there weren't room in the... So this is a view with the seats, both rear seats folded. You can see the original spare tire and rim there. There's a few parts left over, and on the sides are the jerry cans for the water and fuel that would have been carried, and the false wooden floor that's there. One interesting point when I got this, I couldn't figure out why the rear door wouldn't open. It didn't work from the, it was locked, and the key didn't work. I came in, I folded down the rear seats and found this orange broomstick with a hook on the end of it, and that is the way that you open the outside, is reach in with that, unhook the lock. There is a ring that's been drilled through the top of the lock, so this either happened during the event or maybe in training afterwards. When I asked the previous owner about it, he didn't know. He said he hadn't really been back there at all. So it's one of the quirks of this particular vehicle. All right, we're sitting in the driver's seat of the Camel Trophy Discovery. The interesting fact about Camel Trophy vehicles, they were either right or left-hand drive depending on the nationalities of the teams involved. Since this was the United States team car, obviously we're on this side. Dominating the dash is the TerraTrip Rally computer. This is a forerunner to GPS. It helped drivers, co-driver, make calculations of their route. This one doesn't function. I don't know if it can be made to function or not. I don't think I've ever seen any of these working. Behind that, down here, you've got your four-wheel drive selector switch and your 5-speed manual gearbox. This is amazing, shifts great, kind of really what makes this car so much fun. No issues with this, clutch is good, everything works fine. Behind that, the power switches for the rear windows, and beneath that are the switches that control the lights on the outside. Up here in the center console, this was added on at the factory on all of the Discoveries. It is a rather crudely constructed aluminum vinyl covered box. Uses these little flip switches. One of them is no longer there. Parking brake is over here. No radio, no air conditioning, as you can tell. The voltmeter they installed here for monitoring battery voltage. The switch, or the plug for the remote on the winch. The map light, which functions. These are all Camel Trophy specific. On either side of the seats are fire extinguishers that were readily accessible. Both of those are full. Looking up on top, there was at one point during the events they used a VHF radio. I was told that this was used in conjunction with that. And above that are the sun visors. The vinyl has pulled away from the styrofoam. It's still there, but that's probably from its water immersion at some point. There's just something about being inside this vehicle that's just knowing where it's been. It's not quite, there's still some dirt here and there. It has almost an aura about it to me, and maybe because I'm so passionate about Camel Trophy, but it's really a special place to be. It is not a new car by any means. It has a dirty, just earthy smell to it. If the Camel Trophy appeals to you, then you might understand that, or you might not. One interesting quirk on the doors are ashtrays that swivel just like the one in the back. They do not function when the door is closed. The roll bar here restricts that. Just another interesting portion, since it was sponsored by Camel. I guess they needed their ashtrays to go with that. And so, those are all the quirks and features of this 1992 Land Rover Camel Trophy Discovery. Now it's time to get it out on the road and see how she drives. It is definitely noisy. It creaks and groans over bumps. The brakes are a little soft at this point. It shifts great, idles fine, the engine runs as well as any I've ever heard. Diesel is a torque monster over the little hills and things. Unfortunately, it's Florida and the Florida Keys, so I don't have anywhere off-road to take it at this point. It rides fine around town, shifts through all the gears. There's just something about this Camel Trophy, knowing who sat in this seat, experiences that this vehicle had, how hard they worked to get through the jungle and across rivers, and just knowing what it's capable of. A little word about condition. This is probably one of the worst condition cars, if you want to call it that, that's ever been listed for sale on Cars and Bids. But that, as I like to say when I'm explaining this car to people, all of the wear and tear is all earned in under extreme conditions. I know it's kind of cliche. Everyone talks about being a caretaker for a lot of these cars, and that certainly rings true for this one. Give it a little. So it runs through the gears smoothly. All the gears work. As I said, if someone wanted to use this more extensively, then tires would definitely be in order. It rides fine. It's not bad. When you hit a good solid bump, you'll feel it. Just a brief little history. So Land Rover, the United States participated 12 times. Land Rover in the Camel Trophy around the world. None of the events were ever held in the United States. Land Rover during that era, back in the 90s, brought back 5 of these into the United States for promotional and training purposes. One of those vehicles was restored, not back to Camel Trophy spec, but back into operational spec, and was donated to an AIDS foundation in Haiti. People think the car is still there at this point, if it still exists. The other 4 were this one, the 92. There was a 93. That was the year the United States won the Camel Trophy, the entire event. The 95 and the 96. So they used them here for training purposes, to train the next teams following years. And at the end of the 90s, when Land Rover was sold from BMW to Ford, they were kind of just taking up space. They didn't really have a use for them. So 2 of the vehicles went to their original drivers. They were sold for a nominal amount, or given to them. I'm sure it was a couple of bucks. Those 2 drivers of the 95 and 96 vehicles retain them today. They still use them off-road. They've been modified a little bit. Some great articles in the materials that I'll be providing with the car. The 93 car, that is the subject of a huge online discussion. It was sold about 6 or 7 years ago now, with questionable or dubious title issues, and it had also been wrecked. It had fallen off of a truck while it was in shipping and was extensively damaged. Windshield was replaced with a plastic one, some other things, and that sold and has since disappeared. So there's only 4 of these Team USA Discoveries in the United States. That 93 has disappeared. The 95 and 96 will be retained by their owners probably for the rest of their lives. So this is realistically the only one that's ever going to come up for sale. But this is absolutely the most original. Yes, it's been underwater. You know, a lot of the electronics don't work, meaning the lights and the windows and things like that. it's an earthy smell in here. It's got that, there's dirt, and I don't know that it's original, but it sure feels that way. You just can't, this could never be duplicated. And so I really hope that the next buyer, next owner of this vehicle understands that this is something to be maintained. And you'll never be able to find another one like this. It's been stored for basically for 20 years. It's had service, but it has it has under 30,000 kilometers. So they're very hard kilometers, but you feel like you could be in a convoy of 16 similar or 32 similar vehicles traveling through the jungle or across the tundra. You see the video and the footage from those days. It's incredible what these vehicles were capable of doing. So, and that is the 1992 Land Rover Camel Trophy Discovery. I bought this vehicle about 3 years ago from the original owner after Land Rover North America. He was a driving trainer for Land Rover. Had a lot of conversations with him and some extensive emails. I've printed those emails so that the next owner will have that history. This also comes with a heritage certificate from the British motor industry, attesting to its originality, or its at least how it was constructed. It comes with a plethora of Land Rover and specifically Camel Trophy merchandise. One of the items is this Guyana 92 jacket that was originally worn by a British team member. His information and blood type is contained here. An extensive amount of books and magazines, other event worn items from different years of the Camel Trophy. Pictures are in the listing. There's just quite a bit. It is, I believe it goes with the car. I think that the next owner should have that. As I said, it's currently for sale on Cars and Bids, and if you're interested, please take a look over there.